Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. I am Rufaida Balyamin and I will be discussing the auditing electronic data interchange and auditing PC-based accounting system. To coordinate sales and productions operations and to maintain an uninterrupted flow of raw materials, many organizations enter into a trading partner agreement with their suppliers and customers. So this agreement is the foundation of fully automated business process called electronic data interchange. So in a pure electronic data interchange environment, there are no human intermediaries to approve or authorize transactions. So authorizations, mutual obligations, and business practices that apply to transactions are all specified in advance under the trading partner agreement. So a general definitions of electronic data interchange is the intercompany exchange of computer processable business information in standard format. So, the definitions reveal several important features of electronic data interchange. First, electronic data interchange is an inter-organizations endeavor. So, a firm does not engage in electronic data interchange on its own. Second, the information system of the trading partners automatically process the transaction. So, it can be used to deliver electronic documents such as purchase order, invoices, shipping bills, receipt, and other basic business documents communication between trading partners. Third, transactions information is transmitted in standardized format. So this allow firms with different internal system can exchange information and do businesses. So what is the benefits of EDI? So EDI has made considerable inroads in a number of industries, including automotive, groceries, retail, healthcare, and electronics. So the following are some common EDI costs saving to justify the approach. So data keying. EDI reduces or even eliminates the need for data entry, error reduction. Firms using EDI see reductions in data keying errors, human interpretations and classifications error, and filing lost documents error. Reduction of paper. The use of electronics envelopes in the documents drastically reduces the paper form in the system. Postage. Mailed documents are replaced with much cheaper data transmission. Automotive procedures. EDI automates manual activities associated with purchasing, sales order processing, cash disbursements, and cars receipts. Inventory reductions by ordering directly as needed from vendors. EDI reduces the lag time that promotes the inventory accumulation. So what is financial EDI? Using electronic transfer for cash disbursement and cash receipts, processing is more complicated than using EDI for purchasing and selling activities. So most of the companies recently are using the online mode of payment like PayPal and net banking. So the basic concept of financial EDI is to conduct the transaction of payment between two trading companies. Some countries also use financial ID as their driver for tax payment. So there are three types of financial ID. Bank checks. So these bank checks are paper documents used in banks. So the funds here are deducted from payers account and credited into payers account. So these checks may be reversed if there is no sufficient funds in the payer's account. So second, the interbank electronic funds transfer. So these are basically credit transfer of funds between banks. So here the flow of funds is directly done from payer's account to payer's account. So these transfer are usually quick and are done in a single day itself. So electronic funds transfer are one of the best and earliest example of those payment system which rely upon online transaction. So lastly, automated clearinghouse. Automated clearinghouse transfers are used when there is high volume yet small dollar transactions. So these transactions are usually completed in 1 or 2 days. These transactions usually serve for the direct deposit of payrolls, repetitive bill payment, and consumer initiative payment are also done with this system. So what is eddy controls? So the absence of human interventions in the eddy process presents a unique twist to traditional controls problems. So including ensuring the transactions are authorized and valid, preventing unauthorized access to data files, yes, and maintaining an audit trail of transactions. So these following techniques are used in dealing with these problems. So transaction authorizations and validations. So both the customer and the supplier must establish that the transaction being processed is to or from a valid trading partner and is authorized. So this can be accomplished at 3 points in the process. So first, some value added networks have the capability of validating passwords and user ID codes for the vendors by matching this against a valid customer files. So the value-added network rejects any unauthorized trading partner transaction before they reach the vendor system. So the value-added network is private network for electronic data interchange. In other words, it is hosted service that provides a secure way to exchange any documents between companies. So, before being converted, the translation software can validate the trading partner's ID and password against a validation file in the firm's database. So before processing, the trading partner application software references the valid customer and vendor files to validate the transaction. So we are now in access controls. ID trading partners must permit a degree of access to private data files that would be forbidden in a traditional environment. So the trading partner agreement will determine the degree of access control in place. So audit objectives relating to EDI. So in here, audit objectives relating to EDI, the auditor's objectives are to determine that first, all EDI transactions are authorized, validated, and in compliance with the trading partner's agreement. Second, no authorized organization gain access to database records. Third, authorized trading partners have access only to approved data. And lastly, adequate controls are in place to ensure a complete audit trail of all EDI transactions. As to audit procedures relating to EDI, to achieve this control objective, the auditor may perform the following test of controls. So, test of authorization and validation controls. So, the auditor should establish the trading partner identification codes are verified before transactions are processed. So, yes, dapat ma-verified mo na yung identification codes before sila magta-transactions. So, to accomplish this, the auditor should review agreement with value-added network facility to validate transactions and ensure the information regarding trading partner is complete and correct. So number 2, examine the organization valid trading partner file for accuracy and completeness. So what is test of access controls? So security over the valid trading partner file and databases is central to EDI control framework. So the auditor can verify control adequacy in following ways. Number 1, the auditor should determine the access to the valid vendors or customer file is limited to authorized employees only. So the auditor should verify that passwords and authority tables control access to this file and the data are encrypted. Number 2,
The trading agreement will determine the degree of access trading partners should have the firm database recorded, such as inventory, labels, and price list. So the auditor should reconcile the terms of trading agreement against the trading partners' access privileges stated in the database authority table. So the auditor should stimulate access by a sample of trading partners and attempt to violate access privileges. So what is test of audit trails controls? So the auditor should verify that the AD system produces a transaction log that tracks transaction through all stages of processing. So by selecting a sample of transaction and tracing this through the process, the auditor can verify the key data values were recorded correctly at each point. So let us now tackle and dig into the PC system risk and controls. So in everything that we, human beings, has a benefit that we gain to there is risk and weaknesses that we may encounter. So just like operating systems, so yun na nga, yung operating system weaknesses. Here, PCs provide only minimal security for data files and programs contained within them. So which means that in PC systems, may chances na hindi secure in terms of security. At itong control weaknesses is inherent na yan. Since in the philosophy behind the design of PC operating system as it is said, why do we think this happens or this is inherent? Kasi naman, it is intended primarily na as a single user system. Nakadesign na sila to make computer use easy to facilitate access at hindi i-restrict ito. So as to weak access control, security software that provides log-on procedure is available for PCs. Most of these programs, however, become active only when the computer is booted from the hard drive. Under the inadequate segregation of duties, very inevitable to especially sa mga employees na nasa PCs environments, particularly those of small companies. Why? Kasi yung may have access to multiple applications. Hindi na segregate ng maayos ang mga tasks nila, which really leads to incompatible tasks. Kasi instead na task lang niya gagawin niya, napapagawa patuloy siya sa iba. Or yun na nga, nagkakaroon pa ng access sa ibang task. So as to multi-level password control, dito pa lang mapapaisip ka na, why do we have this? Kasi this is used to restrict employees from doon nagsishare sa the same computers to specific directors, programs, and data files. So maganda tong approach na to para hindi magkaroon ng accessibility sa kahit saan lang na functions, which would basically leads to different issues. With that, this approach is into different passwords are used to access different functions. In terms of risk of theft, this happen because of their size. PCs are objects of theft as to their easiness na magdala, also yung portability of laptops na naglalagay sa kanila sa situation ng highest risk. Furthermore, I must say that formal policies should be in place. This is of course to restrict financial and other sensitive data to these top PCs only. So with that, here comes naman ang weak backup procedures where the computer failure, usually disk failure, is ang very primary na dahilan is yung data loss sa PC environments. Dahil nga may weak backup procedures, if ang pag-uusapan is yung hard drive ng PC ay nag-fail, then recovering the data stored on it may be impossible. So in conclusions, para mapanatili ang preserve and integrity of mission critical data and program organization, we must adhere having a formal backup procedure. Moving on towards risk of virus infection, this one is very rampant noon pa man. Now, one of the most common threats, as I have said, to PC integrity and system availability is this kind of risk. Strict adherence to organizational policies and procedures that guard against virus infection is critical to affected virus control. So furthermore, the solution to this one is that organization must also ensure that effective antivirus software is installed sa mga PCs and keep up to date. Do not let your PC to be outdated. That is no-no. So here comes our audit objectives that is associated with PC security. So and here are the things that we need to do, which is first to verify that adequate supervision and operating procedures exist to compensate for lack of segregation between the duties of users, programmers, and operators. Second, verify the backup procedure are in place to prevent data and program loss due to system failures, errors, and so on. Third, verify the system selections and acquisition procedure produce applications that are high quality and protected from unauthorized changes. Fourth and last, verify that the system is free from viruses and adequately protected to minimize the risk of becoming infected with a virus of similar object. So this is in continuation with the audit procedures associated with PC security. Now, here the auditor should observe that PCs are physically anchored to reduce the opportunity of theft. Properly embodying the solution of the risk mentioned earlier in other slides would help minimize or even eradicate this. The next is that the auditor should verify from organizational charts, job descriptions, and observation that programmers of accounting system do not also operate the system. In smaller organizational units where functional segregation is impractical, the auditor should verify that there is adequate supervision over the task. This one is very essential also. Without proper verification of tasks done, the result might not be great if it is just seen as is. So accompanied by this is the auditor should confirm that reports of processed transactions, listing of update accounts, and control totals are prepared, distributed, and reconciled by appropriate management at regular and timely intervals. So wherein it is also a must that we see through where appropriate. The auditor should determine that multi-level password control is used to limit access to data and applications and that the access authority granted is consistent and with the employee's job description. This is in continuation with the audit procedures associated with PC security. So we must remember that if removable or external hard drives are used, the auditor should verify that the drives are removed and stored in a secure location when not in use. Also, in terms of selecting a sample of backup files, the auditor can verify that the backup procedures are being followed. This is through comparing data values and dates on the backup disk to production files. The auditor can access the frequency and adequacy of backup procedures. Moreover, if an online backup service is used, the auditor should verify that the contract is current and adequate to meet the organization needs. So, lastly, by selecting a sample of PCs, the auditor should verify that their commercial software package were purchased from reputable vendors and are legal copies. The editor should review the selections and acquisition procedure to ensure that the end user needs were fully considered and the purchased software satisfied those needs. We are now in my last topic, where the auditor should review the organization policy for using antiviral software. So this policy may include the following points. First is the antiviral software should be installed on all microcomputers and invoked as part of the startup procedure when the computers are turned on. This will ensure that all key sectors of the hard disk are examined before any data are transferred through the network. To be followed by the second one, which is all upgrades to vendor software should be checked for viruses before they are implemented. Third is that all public domain software should be examined for virus infection before it is used. Lastly, The current version of antiviral software should be available to all users. Verify that most current virus data files are being downloaded regularly and that the antivirus program is indeed running in the PC's background continuously and thus able to scan all incoming documents. Corporate version generally include a push update where the software automatically checks the home website of the antivirus vendor for new updates each time it is connected to the internet and the PC is booted.